The thorns drew blood faster than the lies did. Lily knelt in front of a roaring bonfire, wrists bound in sacred vines that cut deeper with every breath, while the man who claimed to be her destined mate stood before the entire pack, holding a blade that could strip her of her wolf forever. The accusation? Poisoning the pack's sacred wellspring? The truth? She was being erased for an inheritance she didn't even know she had. They called her Virgin Omega like it was a disease, untouched, unpure, unworthy. For 23 years, she'd healed their sick, held their dying, whispered prayers over their children. And now they watched her bound like a criminal, ready to let the flames decide her fate. Kyle, her so-called mate, raised the severing knife and began chanting words that would destroy the connection between her human heart and her wolf. This was it. The end. She closed her eyes, waiting for the blade to fall. Then the howl came, not from the pack, not from the circle, from beyond the tree line, a sound so ancient, so dangerous, that every wolf froze mid-breath. A rogue alpha exploded through the trees, scarred, massive, one silver eye burning with recognition. He said 3 words that shattered everything. Ius primi noctis, first right of challenge. And Lily's wolf, silent for years, screamed in response, because she knew him. Her body knew him. Hi, my fierce Omega Park. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to our fierce Alpha Park. Before we begin this story, I want to know something. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Maybe not with a false mate bond, but in your own way? Drop a comment and share your story if you feel comfortable. And if you're curious about whether Lily and Theo's connection is real or just another manipulation, hit that subscribe button if you love stories where Omegas rise from the ashes and Alphas break every rule for love. Because what happens when their eyes finally meet is going to shatter everything you think you know about destiny and choice. The thorns bit deeper with every breath. Lily knelt in the center of the ritual grounds, wrists bound so tight the sacred vines had long since drawn blood. It dripped down her forearms in thin rivulets, black in the firelight, staining the white ceremonial gown they'd forced her into. The fabric clung to her skin, damp with sweat and smoke, and she could feel every eye in the pack burning into her back, judging, condemning, waiting. The bonfire roared 10 feet ahead, ancient flames fed by herbs that made the air shimmer and taste like copper. Her lungs burned with each inhale. The heat licked at her face, but she refused to flinch, refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Not yet. Not while Kyle still stood before her, lips curled into that practiced expression of righteous fury. "Do you deny it?" His voice carried across the stone circle, amplified by the natural acoustics of the ritual grounds. He was good at this. Performance, manipulation, making himself look like the wounded hero. "Do you deny poisoning the sacred wellspring, Lily? The very water that sustains our pack?" She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze through the veil they had draped over her face. The sheer fabric obscured her features, but couldn't hide the defiance burning in her amber eyes. "I deny nothing you haven't already decided." A murmur rippled through the gathered wolves, dozens of them, forming a living wall around the clearing, elders in their ceremonial pelts, warriors with arms crossed and faces carved from stone, younger pack members whispering behind their hands, eager for blood or scandal or whatever would break the monotony of their carefully ordered lives. Kyle's jaw tightened. Good. Let him see that she wouldn't cower, wouldn't beg. She'd spent 23 years as the pack's revered healer, the Omega who could draw poison from wounds and coax life back into dying hearts. She'd touched every one of them with gentle hands, had whispered prayers over their sick children, had held their dying elders as they passed into the next world, and now they watched her bound and accused, and not one of them spoke in her defense. "The wellspring turned black 3 moons ago," Kyle continued, pacing before her like a predator circling wounded prey. "The same night you performed your shamanic rites alone. The same night you—" He paused for effect, letting the silence stretch. The same night you refused to complete our mating bond. There it was, the real accusation beneath all the theater. Lily's fingers curled into fists, thorns digging deeper. The pain kept her focused, kept her from screaming the truth that would only damn her further, that she'd felt the wrongness in their bond from the beginning, that every time Kyle touched her, her wolf recoiled, whimpering in confusion, that the moon itself seemed to dim when he claimed her as his mate before the pack 6 months ago. "I am Virgin Omega," she said quietly, using the old term they had twisted into an insult. "Untouched by the moon's full blessing, my gifts require... Your gifts are a curse." Kyle's shout made several wolves flinch. He stepped closer, and she could smell the rage on him now, acrid and hot. "You poisoned our sacred waters to maintain your precious purity, to keep yourself elevated above the rest of us, to claim your inheritance," Elder Mara interrupted smoothly, emerging from the shadows at the circle's edge. The ancient she-wolf moved with the careful precision of someone who'd orchestrated this entire performance. "Let us not forget the true stakes, Kyle. If Lily is found guilty, her family's ancestral lands, and the lunar springs that flow through them, pass to her mate, to you." There. The flicker of emotion across Kyle's face, greed, triumph, quickly masked, but Lily saw it, and from the careful way Elder Mara watched him, she'd seen it too. This wasn't about justice. It had never been about justice. "Bind her to the judgment pole," Elder Mara commanded. "We invoke the old ways, trial by fire and fang. If she is innocent, the flames will not mark her. If she is guilty..." The old wolf's yellow eyes gleamed. "The fire will claim what the moon has already rejected." 2 warriors moved forward, hauling Lily to her feet. Her legs trembled, not from fear, but from hours of kneeling on the cold stone. They dragged her toward the thick wooden post, driven deep into the ground beside the bonfire, already scorched from previous judgments. How many innocents had burned here? How many had their screams been swallowed by pack law and elder authority? The warriors lashed her to the post with iron chains that burned cold against her skin. Someone yanked the veil from her face, and she felt the full weight of the pack's stare. Let them look. Let them see the Omega they were about to murder for the crime of being inconvenient. Kyle approached, carrying a ceremonial blade that caught the firelight. The severing knife, they called it. Forged in wolf blood and blessed by moon priestesses long dead. One cut from that blade could strip a wolf of their gifts, could sever the connection between human and beast. "Last chance, Lily." Kyle's voice dropped low, meant only for her. "Accept the punishment. Give me the lands willingly, and I'll make this quick." She spit at his feet. His face twisted, all pretense of nobility vanishing. "So be it." He raised the blade, began chanting in the old tongue, words that made her wolf howl in terror inside her chest. The pack took up the chant, a rhythmic drone that vibrated through the stones. The bonfire surged higher, hungry. This was it. This was how she died. Lily closed her eyes, reaching for the connection to her wolf one last time. "I'm sorry," she whispered internally. "I'm sorry I couldn't save us." Her wolf whimpered, then suddenly went still. Alert. And that's when Lily heard it. A howl, not from within the circle, not from any of the gathered pack. This came from beyond the tree line, from the wild darkness that pressed against the ritual grounds. It started low, mournful, then rose into something that made every wolf in the clearing freeze mid-chant. It was a challenge, a territorial claim, a promise of violence, the howl of a rogue alpha. Kyle's blade halted mid-swing. Elder Mara's head snapped toward the trees. The pack warriors shifted uneasily, hands moving to weapons that suddenly seemed inadequate. The howl cut off abruptly, leaving only the crackle of flames and the thundering of Lily's heart. Then the tree line exploded. He came through the ancient oaks like vengeance given form, a massive gray wolf with fur that seemed to drink the moonlight, one eye pale silver, the other scarred shut. The rogue alpha hit the ground in the center of the circle before anyone could react, transforming mid-leap. The man who rose from the wolf's form stood bare-chested and brutal, wearing only torn pants and boots. Scars covered his body like a history of violence, claw marks across his ribs, bite wounds on his shoulders, a jagged line from collarbone to navel that suggested he'd been gutted and lived to tell the tale. His dark hair was wild, his jaw sharp enough to cut, and that single silver eye fixed on Kyle with an intensity that made the beta actually stumble backward. "I invoke Ius Primi Noctis," the rogue alpha said, his voice rough as gravel. "First right of challenge." The pack erupted in chaos. "Ius Primi Noctis." The ancient words hung in the air like a death sentence. Lily's breath caught. She knew that law. Every wolf knew it. First right of challenge. The oldest, most brutal tradition in pack hierarchy. It meant that any alpha could interrupt a judgment ceremony if they believed the accused was being wrongfully condemned. But it also meant trial by combat. Blood, death, and rogues never invoked it. Rogues had no standing, no authority. They were outcasts, exiles, the ones who'd broken pack laws so severely they'd been stripped of protection and territory. For a rogue to invoke Ius Prime, Noctis wasn't just bold, it was suicide. Yet here he stood, unflinching, waiting. Kyle recovered first, his shock morphing into outrage. "You have no right, rogue. You're packless, lawless. Your challenge is invalid." The scarred alpha's lip curled. "I have every right. Or have the elders forgotten their own laws?" His single silver eye swept across the gathered wolves, landing on Elder Mara. "The code states, any alpha of wolf blood may challenge a false judgment, regardless of pack affiliation. Or did that change when you started burning innocents for political convenience?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one spoke to the elders like that. No one questioned pack law openly. It was heresy. It was Theo. Elder Mara's voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. "So you've finally come home. Theo." The name slammed into Lily's chest with unexpected force. She knew that name. Every wolf in the territory knew it. Theo Kane, the ghost story, the cautionary tale, the alpha who'd been exiled 5 years ago for killing a council member. Or so the official story went. He'd vanished into the wilderness, and most assumed he'd died out there in the roguelands where exiled wolves went to starve or go feral. But looking at him now, Lily saw no madness in his gaze, only cold, calculated fury. "This isn't a homecoming, Mara." Theo's voice dropped to something dangerous. "This is a reckoning." He turned then, and for the first time, his eye found Lily's. The world stopped. Her wolf surged forward, not in fear or submission, but in recognition, a bone-deep knowing that made her entire body go rigid against the chains. She felt it, that invisible thread pulling taut between them, thrumming with power she'd never experienced with Kyle, never experienced with anyone. Theo's expression flickered, surprise, then something darker, hunger. No. Lily's mind reeled. No, this can't be, but her wolf was already keening, already reaching for him across the space separating them. After 23 years of feeling incomplete, of being called Virgin Omega like a curse, her wolf had finally found what it had been waiting for, her true mate, and he was the one person she could never have. "The challenge stands," Elder Mara announced, her voice carrying an edge Lily couldn't decipher. "Theo Kane, you may face Kyle in combat for the right to claim Lily as your—" "I don't claim her." Theo's interruption made everyone freeze. His eye never left Lily's. "I claim the right to defend her." "There's a difference," Kyle snarled. "You think you can walk back into our territory and I think you're a coward who preys on defenseless Omegas." Theo took a step forward, power radiating off him in waves. "I think you forged that mating bond through theft and lies. And I think," another step, "you're going to die screaming when I rip out your throat." The venom in his words should have terrified her. Instead, Lily felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Hope. Dangerous, reckless hope. Kyle's hand tightened on the ceremonial blade. "You want to fight, rogue? You'll get one. And when I win, I'll make her watch while I mount your head on the judgment pole." "When you lose," Theo corrected softly, "she'll be free. And you'll be nothing but a warning to the next beta who thinks he can steal what doesn't belong to him." The ritual grounds transformed into an arena. Warriors dragged torches into position, creating a ring of fire around the stone circle. Pack members pressed closer, bloodlust replacing their earlier piety. This was what they'd really come for, not justice, but spectacle, violence sanctioned by tradition. Elder Mara raised her hand, and silence fell like a guillotine blade. The challenge is accepted. Kyle of the Silvercrest Pack versus Theo Kane, the exiled. Combat to first blood or to death, should either combatant choose. Her yellow eyes gleamed. The victor claims the Omega's fate. Wait. Lily's voice cracked through the tension. Every head turned toward her, still chained to the judgment pole. I don't get a say in this? In who fights for my life? You lost that right when you poisoned our wellspring, Kyle spat, already stripping off his ceremonial robes. Beneath, his body was lean, muscled, unmarked, perfect. Everything an ambitious beta should be. I didn't. Silence. Elder Mara's command made Lily's jaw snap shut involuntarily. Alpha compulsion, woven through the Elder's voice like invisible chains. You speak when spoken to, Omega. Your guilt has already been established. This challenge merely decides who enforces your sentence. The words landed like blows. They'd already decided. The trial was theater, the punishment predetermined. Whether Kyle or Theo won, she'd still face the severing knife, still lose her gifts. Still be, Theo's growl vibrated through the ground. If I win, she goes free. That's the law of Ius Primi Noctis. Or are we ignoring that part? Elder Mara's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her gaze. Calculation. If you win, Rogue, we'll discuss terms. No. Theo's voice went deadly soft. We discuss them now. I win. Lily walks out of this circle unharmed, unchained, and unpunished. You have my word. I'll enforce whatever investigation you want into the wellspring. But she doesn't burn for crimes she didn't commit. Kyle laughed. Your word? You're an exile, a murderer. Your word means nothing. Then you should have no problem agreeing to the terms. Theo's smile was all teeth. Unless you're afraid I'll actually win. The taunt hit its mark. Kyle's face flushed red. Agreed. When I win, she burns. When you lose, I mount your head beside hers. Kyle. Elder Mara's warning came too late. The beta shifted. No ceremony, no grace, just raw aggression. His wolf erupted from his skin, a russet-furred beast built for speed rather than power. He launched himself at Theo before the transformation fully completed. Claws extended for the rogue's throat. Theo didn't move. Lily screamed. At the last possible second, Theo twisted. Kyle's claws raked empty air as the rogue alpha shifted in a blur of gray fur and muscle, his wolf larger, scarred, built like a weapon. He caught Kyle mid-leap, jaws clamping down on the beta's shoulder. The crunch of bone echoed across the ritual grounds. Kyle howled, thrashing. Theo released him, letting the beta crash into the dirt. Blood, Kyle's blood, stained the stones black. First blood. The challenge should be over. But Kyle wasn't done. He rolled, shifted back to human form, and his hand closed around something at his belt. A vial, glass glinting in the firelight. Theo, watch out! Lily's warning came too late. Kyle smashed the vial against the ground. Black smoke erupted, thick and oily, smelling of rot and death magic. It wrapped around Theo's wolf like living chains, forcing him to shift back to human form. He dropped to one knee, gasping. Bloodbane extract, Elder Mara whispered, horror in her voice. That's forbidden. Forbidden for good reason. Kyle's grin was manic as he shifted again, circling Theo's paralyzed form. But desperate times call for desperate measures. The Omega's inheritance is worth a little rule-breaking. And there it was. The confession. The proof that this had never been about justice or poison wells or pack safety. Just greed, just power, just Kyle's ambition dressed in ritual clothing. Lily yanked against her chains, feeling them cut deeper. You bastard! You poisoned the wellspring yourself! Kyle's wolf snarled at her, an admission without words. Then Theo laughed. Theo's laughter was wrong, not the sound of defeat, but something darker, triumphant. You really think, he rasped, forcing himself to his feet despite the blood-bane smoke clinging to his skin, that I survived 5 years in the Rogue Lands without building immunity to every poison known to wolfkind? Kyle's wolf froze mid-stalk. Impossible, Elder Mara breathed. Bloodbane has no antidote, no immunity. It severs the connection between human and beast permanently, unless you die from it first. And come back. Theo's body shuddered, muscles rippling as he fought through the poison's grip. 3 times. I died 3 times from Bloodbane before my body learned to adapt. Want to know what that feels like, Beta? Feeling your wolf die inside you while your heart still beats? The smoke began to dissipate, losing its hold. Theo's eyes, both of them now, the scarred one opening to reveal a milky white iris, fixed on Kyle with predatory focus. Your turn. He shifted, but this time his wolf was different, larger. The gray fur had darkened to nearly black, and power radiated off him in waves that made even the elder wolves step back. This wasn't just an alpha. This was something else, something older. Kyle's wolf whimpered and bolted. Coward. He ran from his own challenge, circling away from Theo and heading straight for... No! Lily screamed. Kyle's trajectory became clear. He wasn't running from Theo. He was running toward her, toward the one leverage he had left. If he couldn't win the fight, he'd kill the prize. Theo's wolf moved like black lightning. He intercepted Kyle 3 feet from Lily's pole, jaws closing around the beta's throat. Not killing, not yet. Just holding, proving dominance, forcing submission. Kyle struggled, then went still, the universal sign of surrender. Theo released him, shifted back to human form, chest heaving. Blood, his own and Kyle's, painted his torso in abstract patterns. Yield. Kyle shifted back, gasping. For a moment, Lily thought he'd accept defeat with dignity. Then she saw his hand creeping toward his belt again. Another vial. Theo! She shouted, but someone else moved faster. Elder Mara's wolf erupted from the crowd, ancient and white as bone. She hit Kyle with the full weight of elder authority, pinning him to the ground. The vial rolled from his grip, shattering harmlessly against stone. Enough! Mara's human voice emerged from her wolf's throat, a trick only the most powerful could manage. You have disgraced yourself and this pack, Kyle, using forbidden substances, fleeing combat, targeting a bound Omega. She shifted back to human form, her aged face hard as granite. The challenge is decided. Theo wins. The pack erupted in confused murmurs. This wasn't how these things usually went. Elders didn't interfere. They certainly didn't side with rogue alphas against their own pack members. Unless, Lily's mind raced. Elder Mara had called Theo by name immediately, had shown no real surprise at his appearance. And now she was protecting him, in her own way, protecting this outcome. The elders orchestrated this, Lily realized with growing horror. All of it. Theo approached her pole, producing a key from somewhere. I'm going to unchain you now, he said quietly. His voice meant only for her. When I do, don't run. Don't react. Just follow my lead. Why would I trust you? But even as she asked, her wolf was singing, pressing against her ribs, desperate to get closer to him. Because... He unlocked the first chain, his fingers brushing her wrist. The contact sent electricity arcing between them, so intense she gasped. His eyes widened, confirming what she'd suspected. He felt it too, the bond. Because we're both pawns in someone else's game, and I'm betting you're tired of being played. The chains fell away. Lily's legs buckled, and Theo caught her, one arm around her waist. The touch ignited every nerve ending. Her wolf howled with joy and need and recognition. Mine, it whispered. Ours. Finally. Can you stand? Theo's breath was warm against her ear. Can you explain what's really happening here? She countered. His smile was grim. Not here, not now, but soon. He helped her steady herself, then turned to face Elder Mara. She's free. We had a deal. Indeed. Mara's expression revealed nothing. The Omega is cleared of charges. The true culprit, she gestured at Kyle, still pinned by 2 warriors. As will face proper judgment. Elder Mara ordered the pack dispersed, but commanded Lily and Theo to remain. The ritual grounds emptied slowly, wolves casting backward glances filled with hunger for gossip. Kyle was dragged away in silver chains, still spitting threats that echoed off the ancient stones. When only the elders remained, 5 ancient wolves forming a semicircle, Mara's expression shifted from neutral authority to something far more calculating. "Strip him," she ordered, gesturing to Kyle's retreating form. The warriors hesitated, then obeyed. They tore away Kyle's remaining clothes, searching. One found it almost immediately, a small leather pouch tied around his neck on a silver chain. Inside, wrapped in black silk, was a fragment of carved bone. Lily's breath stopped. "Bring it here," Mara commanded. The bone fragment was no longer than Lily's thumb, covered in runes that seemed to writhe in the firelight. The moment the warrior placed it in Mara's palm, Lily felt something inside her chest snap, like a string pulled too tight, finally breaking. The phantom warmth she'd always felt whenever Kyle was near, the sensation she'd been told was their mate bond, vanished completely. "No," the word escaped her lips as a whisper. "No, that's not—" "A vinculum mendacium," Elder Mara said quietly. "A false bond artifact, extremely illegal, extremely rare, carved from the bone of an alpha who died, rejected by their true mate." She looked at Lily with something that might have been pity. "He used this to forge an artificial mating bond with you 6 months ago. You were never truly mated, Lily. You were enslaved." The clearing spun. Lily's knees gave out, but Theo caught her again, lowering her gently to sit on the stone. Her mind raced through every interaction with Kyle, every time she'd felt the bond pull her toward him, despite her instincts screaming to run. Every night she'd felt wrong in his presence, but couldn't explain why. "How?" her voice cracked. "How did he get that? How did he use it without me knowing?" "The ceremony," Theo said grimly, crouching beside her. 6 months ago, when he claimed you publicly before the pack, you drank from the ceremonial cup, didn't you?" She had. The mating cup, filled with moon water and herbs, traditional, sacred. She'd been so focused on doing everything right, on honoring pack customs despite her reservations. "He ground the bone into powder," Elder Mara continued, "mixed it with your blood, likely taken without your knowledge, and added it to the cup. The moment you drank, the false bond activated. Your wolf believed him to be your mate because the artifact told it to believe." Lily's hands trembled. "Why? Why would you? How long have you known?" "We suspected 3 weeks ago." Another elder spoke now, Elder Garrett, his voice gravelly with age. "When scouts reported activity in your family's lunar springs, Kyle had been visiting them in secret, performing rituals. Dark magic. We believe he intended to corrupt the springs entirely, frame you for it, then claim your inheritance through the mate bond." "But the wellspring poisoning happened 3 months ago," Lily protested. "The public poisoning, yes." Mara's expression was cold. "But the corruption began the moment he forged the bond with you. Your family springs are tied to your bloodline. By binding himself to you through false means, he created a spiritual wound. The springs responded to that wound by turning toxic." Theo's hand found Lily's shoulder, grounding her. His touch was real, warm. Nothing artificial about the way her wolf responded to him. "They used you as bait," he said quietly. "Knew Kyle would make a move if they pressured you publicly. That's why they allowed this sham trial." "We needed proof of his betrayal," Mara confirmed. "And we needed," she looked at Theo, "we needed you to return, to fulfill your true purpose." "Which is?" Lily demanded, anger finally cutting through her shock. Theo's jaw tightened. "Tell her, Mara. Tell her what you really are." The ancient she-wolf's eyes gleamed. "I'm not an elder girl. I'm the Alpha Prime, the Council's hidden enforcer. And Theo?" She smiled without warmth. "He's my personal executioner, has been for 15 years. His exile was a cover, a way to embed him in the Roguelands to monitor threats we couldn't reach through official channels." The world tilted again. "You're telling me," Lily said slowly, "that everything, Kyle's betrayal, my trial, Theo's appearance, all of it was orchestrated?" "Not all," Theo said softly. His hand slid down to clasp hers, fingers intertwining. "They didn't plan for this." The mate bond flared between them, true and terrifying. Lily just discovered that Kyle's bond was a lie, that Theo's been working for the Council, and that her entire life has been orchestrated by people she trusted. "Here's what I want to know. If you were Lily, could you trust Theo right now? Even if the mate bond feels real, would that be enough after everything? Comment your honest answer. I genuinely want to know where you all stand on this. And if you're invested in seeing whether Lily chooses revenge, redemption, or something else entirely, subscribe because the next act reveals her true lunar power, and it changes absolutely everything. Lily ripped her hand from Theo's grasp. "Don't touch me." The words came out savage, her wolf snarling in confusion. The mate bond screamed in protest, but her mind, her human, rational mind, was finally catching up to the manipulation. "You knew, this entire time, you knew I was being set up, and you just watched?" "It wasn't like that." Theo stood, frustration etching lines in his face. "I only learned about your situation 2 weeks ago. The council doesn't share everything with their attack dog. But you came here knowing." Lily pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the way her body swayed. "Knowing they'd been using me, knowing they let Kyle torture me for months with a false bond. And you played your part perfectly, didn't you? The heroic rogue alpha swooping in to save the damsel." She laughed bitterly. "Was the mate bond part of the plan too? Or just a happy accident?" Theo flinched. "You think I wanted this? You think I chose to feel—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Enough." Elder Mara's voice cut through their argument. "Your personal drama can wait. We have a larger problem." She held up the bone fragment. "This artifact didn't come from Pack territory. The runes are Shadowfen work, Mountain Wolf magic. The Shadowfen clan was wiped out 30 years ago," Elder Garrett interjected. "There shouldn't be any of their artifacts left. Unless someone's been collecting them?" Theo's expression darkened. "Or unless the Shadowfen weren't as wiped out as we thought." Mara's silence was answer enough. Lily's mind raced despite her fury. Shadowfen magic. False bonds, her family's corrupted springs. The pieces were connecting, forming a picture that made her blood run cold. "You're not investigating Kyle's betrayal at all, are you? You're investigating something much bigger." "The Shadowfen clan swore a blood oath before their fall," Mara said quietly. "They vowed to destroy the Pack hierarchy from within, to tear down what they called our corrupt nobility. Your family, Lily, was instrumental in their defeat. Your grandmother led the charge that burned their stronghold. So, this is revenge." Lily's voice went hollow. "Kyle was just a pawn. Someone gave him that artifact. Someone wanted me destroyed specifically because of my bloodline. We believe so, yes. And you used me as bait without warning me, without giving me a choice." Lily looked at each elder in turn, then at Theo. "You're no better than Kyle, any of you." "Lily," Theo reached for her. "Don't." She stepped back, and the mate bond stretched painfully between them. Her wolf howled in agony, but she pushed it down. "You want to know the worst part? I felt you coming. Before you burst through those trees, my wolf knew. She recognized you. And I thought," her voice cracked, "I thought maybe the moon had finally sent me someone who was mine. Not stolen, not forged. Actually mine. I am yours." Theo's words came out raw. "That bond is real, Lily. Whatever else is a lie, that's real." "Is it?" She laughed bitterly. "How do I know? How do I ever trust what I feel again, when they can just—" She gestured at the bone fragment. "Manufacture bonds? Maybe you're wearing your own artifact. Maybe this is just another layer of control." The words hit Theo like a physical blow. "You don't believe that." "I don't know what I believe anymore." Lily turned to Mara. "I want to leave, now. I want to go to my family's lands, to the springs, and figure out what Kyle actually did to them. Alone." "That's not advisable," Elder Garrett began. "I don't care what's advisable." Lily's voice took on an edge she didn't recognize. Power. Old power. "I was bound, accused, nearly burned alive, and now I find out I was just a piece in your political games. So, here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of this circle. You're going to stay away from me while I figure out who I am without false bonds or council schemes. And if anyone," her eyes found Theo's, "anyone tries to follow me, I will make you regret it." The air around her shimmered. The bonfire surged, flames reaching toward her like living things responding to her rage. Elder Mara's eyes widened. Impossible. You're not supposed to... What? Lily demanded. Not supposed to what? But the elders were already backing away, fear replacing authority in their expressions. Your eyes, Theo whispered. Lily, your eyes are glowing. Not wolf gold, not amber. Silver. Pure silver. The color of moonlight made flesh. The silver light burst from Lily's eyes in twin beams, illuminating the ritual grounds like twin moons. The bonfire roared in response, flames spiraling upward in a column that pierced the night sky. Every wolf present dropped to their knees, instinct, not choice. Even Theo, fighting against the compulsion, managed only to stay half standing. Only Elder Mara remained upright, and barely. Lunar descendant, she breathed. True blood. We thought the line had died with your grandmother. Lily felt it now, power coursing through her veins like liquid moonlight. Memories that weren't hers flooded her mind. Ancient rituals, wolves bowing before silver-eyed priestesses. A time when omegas weren't the bottom of the hierarchy, but the bridge between mortal wolves and divine forces. What's happening to me? Her voice echoed strangely, layered with something older than words. Your true nature, awakening. Mara's voice held awe and fear in equal measure. The Virgin Omega designation wasn't an insult, child. It was a lock, a seal placed on you at birth to contain your power until you were ready. Until you were needed. Needed for what? To stop what's coming. Theo forced the words out through gritted teeth, still fighting the compulsion to kneel. The Shadow Fen aren't just seeking revenge. They're trying to resurrect something. They're Alpha Prime, a wolf who was possessed by a lunar demon before your grandmother killed her. The power surged again, and suddenly Lily could see it. Threads of corrupted magic spreading through the territory like infection through veins, all of them leading back to her family's springs. Kyle had been a tool, yes, but an effective one. He'd used the false bond to anchor dark magic to her bloodline, creating a doorway. They're going to use my springs as a gateway, Lily realized, to bring her back. Tonight, Mara confirmed, the new moon. When the barrier between worlds is thinnest. How long do we have? Theo asked. Lily closed her silver eyes, feeling the corruption pulse like a distant heartbeat. 3 hours, maybe less. The light faded. Her eyes returned to their normal amber, and the wolves could move again. Lily swayed, exhaustion hitting her like a physical blow. Theo was there instantly, catching her before she fell. I told you not to touch me, she said weakly, and I'm not good at following orders. His arms tightened around her, especially when you're about to collapse. She should push him away, should maintain her anger. But the mate bond was singing between them now, amplified by her awakened power. She could feel his truth through it, the genuine horror he'd felt, watching her bound and accused, the fury at being kept in the dark by the council, the terror when Kyle had charged her with murder in his eyes, and beneath it all, the same desperate need she felt, the recognition of finding something you'd been missing without knowing you were incomplete. You really didn't know, she whispered, about me, about what they were planning. I swear on my life. Theo's voice was rough against her hair. I was told to investigate territorial threats, that's all. When I heard about your trial, his arms trembled. I've never moved so fast, never been so afraid I'd be too late. Lily pulled back enough to meet his eyes. One silver, one scarred white, both fierce with protective intensity. I'm still angry at you. I know. And at the council. And at this entire mess. Understandable. But, she took a shaky breath. I need help. I can't stop this alone. My power is waking up. But I don't know how to control it, how to use it. Then we learned together. Theo's hand cupped her face gently. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to accept this bond right now. I'm just asking you to let me stand beside you when you face whatever's coming. Their foreheads touched. The bond flared, warm and right and terrifying in its intensity. 3 hours, Lily repeated. We have 3 hours to save my family's legacy and stop a demon wolf from returning. Theo's smile was grim. Then, we'd better get moving. The lunar springs were dying. Lily could feel it the moment they broke through the tree line, her family's sacred waters. once crystalline and alive with moonlight, now churning black as tar. The air reeked of rot and dark magic. At the center of the largest spring, a figure stood on the water's surface, hands raised, chanting in the old tongue, not Kyle, someone else. Charlotte, Theo breathed, recognizing her before Lily did. Beta of the Shadowfen remnants. She's been hiding in plain sight as a pack healer for 2 years. The blonde woman turned, and her eyes were solid black. Possessed. Too late, Enforcer. The gateway is already opening. Our Alpha Prime returns tonight, and your precious pack hierarchy burns with her. Around the springs, wolves emerge from the shadows. 20, 30, all with those same black eyes, all Shadowfen loyalists, infected with the demon's influence. We're outnumbered, Lily said, silver beginning to glow in her eyes again. Good. Theo's grin was feral. I prefer a challenge. He shifted, his massive gray wolf stepping protectively in front of her. But Lily wasn't done talking. She pulled the power rising inside her, letting her voice carry across the springs with divine authority. Charlotte, you're using my bloodline as an anchor. You needed the false bond with Kyle to corrupt the springs through me. Smart little Omega. Charlotte's laugh was wrong, layered with multiple voices. Your virgin status made you the perfect conduit, untouched, pure, vulnerable. All we needed was a connection to your family magic, and Kyle provided that beautifully. He provided access, Lily agreed, stepping around Theo, but he didn't understand what he was really touching. Her skin began to glow silver. Neither did you. She thrust her hands toward the corrupted water. The lunar power exploded outward, silver light meeting black corruption in a clash that sent shockwaves through the clearing. The possessed wolves staggered. Charlotte screamed. You can't purify what's already claimed, the demon shrieked through Charlotte's mouth. No, Lily agreed, sweat beading on her forehead as she poured everything into the magic. But I can rewrite the claim itself. This was what her grandmother's teachings had been preparing her for. Lessons Lily had thought were just stories, ancient rites, words of power passed down through generations of lunar descendants. She spoke them now, her voice ringing with divine command. By blood and moon, by silver light, by the covenant of the first wolves, I sever this gateway. I reclaim this magic. I deny you passage. The black water began to clear, but slowly, too slowly. Charlotte was fighting back, the demon's power immense. Lily's knees buckled. Then Theo was there beside her, human again, his hands covering hers. Together, he growled. The mate bond flared to life between them. His alpha strength flooded through the connection, not trying to control or dominate, but to support, to amplify. Their combined power slammed into the corruption like a tidal wave. Charlotte shrieked. The black water boiled, evaporating into steam that smelled of sulfur and defeat. The gateway collapsed with a sound like reality tearing, and the demon's presence vanished, sucked back into whatever hell it had been crawling from. The possessed wolves dropped, the black fading from their eyes, confused, freed. Charlotte remained standing, no longer possessed, but staring at her hands in horror. What have I done? She whispered. Betrayed your pack for a false promise. Elder Mara stepped from the trees, warriors flanking her. She'd been waiting, watching. You're under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and attempted resurrection of prohibited entities. As warriors moved to secure Charlotte and the freed Shadowfen wolves, Lily collapsed fully. Theo caught her, cradling her against his chest. Did we win? She mumbled, exhausted beyond measure. You won, he corrected softly. You saved everyone, including me. Through half-closed eyes, Lily saw the springs, crystal clear again, glowing with gentle silver light, healed. Good, she breathed. That's good. And the world went dark. Lily woke 3 days later in her family's ancestral home, sunlight streaming through windows she hadn't opened in months. The springs outside sang with renewed life, their waters clear and thrumming with lunar energy. And Theo sat beside her bed, looking like he hadn't slept since the battle. You stayed, she said softly. Where else would I be? His scarred hand found hers carefully, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. The council convened yesterday, Theo continued. Kyle's been exiled permanently. The false bond artifact was destroyed. Charlotte and the Shadowfen loyalists are imprisoned, but alive. The demon gateway is sealed. He paused. And Elder Mara publicly acknowledged their manipulation. Apologized to you before the entire pack. I'm sure that hurt her pride. Almost as much as when you called her a coward to her face before passing out. Lily laughed, then winced. I did that? You did. It was magnificent. Theo's expression grew serious. The pack knows what you are now, what you did. They're calling you the lunar heir. Some want you to take a council seat. Others think you should lead your own sacred order. And what do you think I should do? I think, he lifted her hand, pressing his lips to her knuckles. You should do whatever makes you happy. You've spent your whole life serving everyone else's needs. Maybe it's time to figure out what you want. Lily studied him. The fierce rogue alpha who'd crashed through her trial and changed everything. The council's hidden enforcer with secrets as deep as her own, her true mate, recognized by fate and moon and every instinct she possessed. I want truth, she said finally. No more games, no more manipulation. If we're going to explore this bond, she touched her chest where the mate connection thrummed like a second heartbeat. I need honesty, complete honesty. Done. Theo didn't hesitate. I'll tell you everything. My exile, my work for the council, every mission, every secret. And in return, I'll do the same. Lily sat up slowly, and Theo helped adjust the pillows. I'll teach you about lunar magic. You'll teach me about survival in the Roguelands. We'll figure out what this bond means together, at our own pace. Our own pace, Theo echoed. I like that. And Theo? She cupped his scarred face, thumb tracing the old wound over his closed eye. Thank you for coming for me, for believing I was worth saving. You were never something that needed saving, Lily. You're something that needs standing beside. He leaned into her touch. I'm just grateful you're letting me try. Their lips met softly, tentatively. Not the desperate passion of fate demanding recognition, but something gentler, a choice. A beginning built on honesty instead of artifacts or council schemes. When they broke apart, Lily's eyes glowed silver for just a moment, and Theo's scarred eye opened fully, revealing the white iris that marked him as her perfect balance, light and dark, moon and shadow, Alpha and Omega united. Outside, the lunar springs sang louder, celebrating. The pack would have to adjust. The council would have to change. Kyle's betrayal had exposed rot in their traditions, and Lily's power had proven that Omegas were never meant to be the weakest link, but the strongest connection to something divine. It would take time. There would be resistance. But Lily had Theo beside her now, and her own strength finally awakening. She was Virgin Omega no longer, not in the way they had meant it as an insult. She was Virgin Omega as her grandmother had been, untouched by corruption, pure in purpose, a lunar descendant who would rewrite what it meant to be blessed by the moon. And with Theo's hand in hers, she was ready to begin. Lily's story reminds us that sometimes the bonds we think define us are just chains in disguise, and real power comes from choosing who we become when those chains finally break. If this story touched something in you, if it made you think about your own strength or the relationships you've questioned, I'd love for you to join this community by hitting subscribe. We explore stories like this every week, tales of wolves who refuse to be tamed, Omegas who rise, and bonds that rewrite destiny. And speaking of destiny, there's another story waiting for you right now on your screen about an Alpha Queen who discovers her true mate is the enemy general sent to destroy her kingdom. Click it, watch it, and let me know which story gripped you harder. I'll see you there, friend.